Hey nerds, and welcome to Agent Carter, Theories and Conspiracies. I'm Brian from Good Nerd, Bad Nerd. This week we had episode 4 of Agent Carter, which didn't have too much in the way of Easter eggs or things that can kind of give us a hint of what's coming. But I did want to share a theory about who Vernon Masters could be, although I think it's it's a big stretch, but just so everyone knows the theories that are out there, I'm going to share that one. I am going to share who Jason Wilkes is from the comics, so that's a potential very big spoilers. But also just there's one location drop that I think is important. And so first the location. We get the backstory on Peggy and on Whitney, or Agnes. And Agnes grew up in Broxton, Oklahoma. This is important because in the comics later on, this is where Asgard has its kind of earthly domain. When Thor comes back and he brings all the Asgardians back after the Ragnarok and the end of the Avengers, when he comes back, he sets up Asgard in Broxton, Oklahoma. This is also where Stark Resilient will set up shop when Stark is launching a new company. And so there's a lot that happens there, including the end of the Dark Reign series that culminated with the end of the Dark Avengers, when Norman Osborn, who was Iron Patriot at the time, essentially tried to destroy Asgard, and it was the storyline Siege. So a lot happens there. Broxton, Oklahoma has been in the comics a lot recently, so it's a nice shout out to that. I don't think we're going to see any of that stuff there, but it is just a nice call out. Now, Vernon Masters. Honestly, I don't think he is necessarily anyone from the comic. I don't think we're going to get some big reveal about who he is. But one theory I did see going around was that he's actually Count Nefaria, Count Lucino Nefaria, and this would make him Whitney Frost's biological father. Again, everyone doesn't need to be related. Everyone doesn't need to be someone from the comics. It's kind of a far stretch, particularly because the Count is the descendant of a long line of kind of Italian nobility. So he's got a vast fortune, and he never went into this kind of subterfuge stuff that you see that would be happening if Masters is Nefaria. So that's the theory that's out there. I don't think it's accurate, but it just so you know some of the theories that are going around. Now, Jason Wilkes. If you don't want to know about him, I'll see you next week. But if you do want to know about him and who he is in the comics, he's from an issue of Strange Tales, and he was a scientist who was approached by a communist agent essentially to steal secrets and invent an invisibility ray. Well, he totally takes them up on the offer. So that scene a couple weeks ago, or last week, when they find all those documents in Wilkes' house and the passports and the money, that actually could have been his. But Wilkes, in his attempt to invent an invisibility ray, does. But the problem is he can't reverse it, and eventually he becomes intangible, and he has no way of turning it off or solving it because he is intangible, so he can't actually turn on his antidote ray. That was the one way that he could fix himself. So he very likely is a spy for Leviathan or some communist group, and it's very possible that Stark will figure out a way to bring him back, and it'll be some ray of some sort. But it's possible they just used him as a red herring. They're not going to follow that. They're just referencing who he was in the comics. It's really hard to say at this point, but it's very possible that he really is a bad guy. So we'll see. It was a great episode this week. It was nice getting a lot of backstory on Peggy and Whitney and getting a lot of that fleshed out and really finding out who she was and who she was fooling herself to be when she was going to, engage to Fred. But it was really obvious seeing her with him that was not Peggy, and she was not happy there. So that being said, it was a great episode. And I cannot wait for next week. If you love the show and want to jump in on the conversation, make sure to check out the Agent Carter after show on the stream.tv. I'm there every week with Steve Tenney and L. Stephanie Tate. So join the conversation. It's live Wednesdays at 6:15, or you can always catch it on YouTube and continue the conversation there. So until next week, this has been Brian from Good Nerd, Bad Nerd, and this has been Agent Carter, Theories and Conspiracies.